In our modern lives, it's so easy for us to slip and eventually feel further and further away from God. We can be doing really well in our relationship with God and feel like God is right there next to us. But then slowly but surely, without us even realising sometimes, little distractions seem to come in, and then we look back suddenly after a few weeks and realise that we've gone so far from where we were with God and our relationship with Him. Lent is a Christian festival that is used for Christians to make sure that they are close to God and for us to go back to the fundamentals of our faith, God and His kingdom.
Ash Wednesday. In some Christian traditions, Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of Lent. On Ash Wednesday, Christians gather to take communion together and have a cross of ash put on their foreheads. This act is to symbolize the passage in Genesis 3:19 where God says to Adam, "For dust you are, and to dust you will return." Ash Wednesday is a time to remember that we're finite and that we must rely on God's grace. We are also reminded that we should put right wrongs in the time that we have between God and others.
Lent is all about us stopping for a while. Stopping to remember who God is, what He's done for us, and to make sure that our lives line up with His kingdom and His will for our lives. It's a time for us to remove any distractions that are taking us away from God so that we can prepare for the festival that comes at the end of Lent, or the celebration that comes at the end of Lent, Easter. So it's a time to remove distractions, to remember who God is and what He's done for us, and not to give up things for the sake of giving up things, but for us to pray, fast, and remember who God is so that we can embrace the fullness of life that Jesus has given to us, like what we commemorate at Easter. In our church here in Kingdom Faith, it's very similar to our time that we take in January of prayer and fasting. The length of Lent is 40 days, and it is traditionally used to commemorate the 40 days and nights that Jesus spent in the wilderness just after He was baptised and just before He began His ministry. Now remember our series Symbols and Signs, and one week we looked at the number 7 and how actually 7 is used as a symbol as well as a number in the Bible. Well, it's the same with the number 40. It seems to come up quite a lot, and it always refers to times of testing. So, for example, Moses lived in Egypt for 40 years, and then he lived in the desert for 40 years, and then he came and liberated the Israelites from Egypt, and the Israelites themselves wandered around in the desert for 40 years. All of this was preparation for them to go into the promised land that God had given them as a people. Now, the list goes on in the Bible of the number 40. It's literally everywhere when a time of testing comes up. And so Lent can be seen as a time of preparation for the different tests that all of us go through in life. Every single person on the planet goes through testing times. It's just part of the lives that we live as human beings on this earth. Now, the important distinction to make sure that we know about here is that we're not forcing ourselves into a time of testing during Lent. We are preparing so that when tests come, we can respond to them in the right way as followers of Jesus. So I hope that you will join us on our journey as we go through the next few weeks, looking at Lent and really preparing ourselves for God and His kingdom, and of course for the celebration of Easter.
So this week, let's ask ourselves, what can we do to draw closer to God? What can we do that inspires us in our relationship with Him? It could be a Zoom call with friends and you talk about faith, or reading a book in the Bible consistently, or literally just walking or baking, painting, doing some photography. Lent is not about doing boring things or giving up fun things. So this week, remember, God is good and your life matters.
Hi guys, thanks for watching this Consecrate video.
If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a future upload.